Hello, free spirits, and welcome back to Flying Upstream. I'm Kristen Medeiros, and today we have a guest who has truly blazed his own trail in the film industry. If you've ever wondered how to make it in a creative field, take risks, and turn your passion into a career, then you're in for a treat. David Winning is a renowned film and television director with over 40 years of experience. His impressive body of work includes projects for major networks like Netflix, Hallmark, Sci-Fi, Lifetime, and many more. David's work spans across genres from sci fi and thrillers to drama and, of course, Hallmark Christmas classics. His versatility and ability to connect with audiences through diverse storytelling have made him a respected figure in the industry. David's journey to success is unconventional to say the least. At 22, he decided to skip the traditional route and use his film school money to make his first feature film, a decision that set the foundation for his incredible career he's built since then. Today, David will share how he carved his own path, how he embraced mistakes and challenges along the way, and what it means to live a creative life. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kristen. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Great. I'm so excited. All right, David, let's start at the beginning. You took a huge risk in your 20s when you spent your film school money on your first feature film. Can you walk us through that decision and what made you choose that unconventional route?
Yeah, it seemed crazy at the time, but it all sort of made sense, I guess. Eventually, I was a kid. I have the kind of standard story of my dad got me a movie camera when I was 10, my 10th birthday. Very sort of forward thinking of my dad, even though I'd begged him for it for 2 years. But I got a movie camera when I was 10, so I spent most of my teen years making movies and trying to figure out, boy, I wonder if there's some way to make this into a career. So in my 20s, we kind of planned that I was going to go to film school, and we were raising money. I was working as a waiter and a bouncer and a bartender and all sorts of jobs, and I was going to go to film school. That was the thing. And then I had this kind of brainstorm when I was 22 that I was going to take all this money and put it into making my first film. I thought, the heck with film school, I'm going to create my own film course. So I sunk all this money into buying film stock, and my dad was kind of shocked, so helped him off the floor and said, Dad, it's going to work. It's going to be fine. And I went out, and way back in the 80s, early 80s, I shot my very first feature film it's called Storm. You can still see it. Still in 7-Elevens. I still get a nickel every time it's rented. And I thought, I'll just make this film, and if it doesn't work, then I'll work in a bookstore or become a lawyer or have a regular life. But the film took me 4 years to finish, basically all of my 20s. And it got released by Canon, the Canon group back in the 80s, and Warner Home Video released it. And, the rest is history. But it was that first sort of leap of faith making my first movie that kind of got me into the movie business. And it hasn't always been an easy, straight ride, but it's been kind of an up and down thing. But I love the fact that when you're young, you're so naive that you don't realize how impossible something you're going to do is. So I went out and just made this movie, and I kind of rolled the dice, and it seemed to have worked out.
That's incredible. Most people would have followed the traditional path, but you knew you had to break the molds. And now your career has spanned decades, and you've worked with huge networks like Netflix, Hallmark, ABC. You've directed dozens of movies and
Yep.
series. What has been the key to maintaining versatility throughout your career, and how do you keep reinventing yourself in this ever evolving industry?
Well, when you look back at a career, you think, wow, that was really well planned. Look at all that, variety of material that he's done. But that's not the case. It's kind of what the truth is. I was really a yes man. I said yes to anything that came along because I just wanted to get the experience. And you have, up and down years. It's like any career. It's not been just, suddenly they handed me an Oscar and I just made movies for 40 years. But I just kept pursuing it, and I ended up the first film, Storm, got me into the Directors Guild in Canada, and that got me into a big book of all the directors who work. And one day in the 90s, there's a TV series called Friday the 13th that was shooting in Toronto that had a director fall out for whatever reason, and they were flipping through the book, and they said, "Winning sounds positive. Let's hire this guy." And they didn't realize I was 26. I pretended I was like 36 or something because I didn't want anything to fail. I thought golden opportunity. So they flew me down to Toronto, and I started directing a network TV series for Paramount. I did 3 episodes of this kind of quirky horror series from the 90s, Friday the 13th. And it was a ton of fun. And I learned so much. And then, one thing leads to another, but I literally didn't really plan any direction. I just kind of said yes to whatever opportunities came along, and it's worked out.
That's amazing. I'm curious to know if you ever had any imposter syndrome or just fear because you were young and inexperienced and
Constant fear.
how did you talk yourself out of it or maybe not get over it, but at least keep that fear at bay so you could focus on the job at hand?
I think you just kind of fake it till you make it. I mean, I always believed in that. I mean, I kind of knew the basics of how to make movies. And when I got thrown into the deep end of the water, I just started swimming. And, I ended up making some shows that were good. And like I said, it's a stepping stone to whatever comes next. And I just went from series to series to series. I did a lot of TV series in the 90s, police series, and, a lot of sci-fi series and a lot of kid series for Nickelodeon. And I've kind of at the end of it, you look at all of it. Well, not at the end of it yet, but when you look at all of it, it's like, wow, that's a lot of different genres. I'm pretty sure there's no genre that I haven't done now. You as a director, you kind of get lumped into certain thing. Like I did science fiction for years, couldn't get out of science fiction, but I loved it because that's kind of where I started. Big Trekkie, and then just you kind of I've done horror movies, I've done westerns, and like I said, I think 5 series for Nickelodeon. So I kind of just went where the work was, and I'm still doing that. You're always kind of promoting yourself and trying to work with new producers and new people. And I've been really lucky. I've been able to travel a lot of the world too. I did a series in Budapest, Hungary for ABC Dinotopia, and I did a movie in Scotland with Jason Connery, which was lots of fun. And it's like, how would you ever get to do this kind of travel and meet these kind of folks if you weren't in the film business? That's the magic of the business, is you get to meet so many different people and have lots of different experiences, which has been great.
That's amazing. Yes, I saw that you did Are You Afraid of the Dark? Is that right?
I did. I did. That's
Yes.
I'm responsible.
That was definitely a part of my childhood, and the answer is yes. Yes, David, I am afraid of the dark. Oh my gosh, you did your job too well. That was so scary.
You're not the only one. I'm afraid of the dark too. Um, No,
I
I
love
did.
that.
Yeah, I did 11 episodes of this little Nickelodeon series that was kind of super low budget, shot in Montreal in the early 90s. And everywhere I go, people say, "Oh, that show, this episode just scared me." And I do the quiz thing. What's your 3 favorite episodes? And hopefully they get one of mine in the top 3, which has been great. I had a lot of fun with it. It was kind of like I was trying to model it after Night Gallery and Twilight Zone, the shows that I grew up with in the 60s. And we just had a ton of fun with the show. It was great. It was safe scares. I also worked on Goosebumps years later, but Afraid of the Dark has a special place in my heart just because it seemed like it was just so early on, and it was so much fun. Some great people to work with. Ryan Gosling did one of his first shows with Afraid of the Dark, not my episode.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. A lot of people started there in Montreal, which was a lot of fun. I'm glad you saw it. That's good. I feel a little guilty because I think I've scared way too many kids, but
You're just too good at your job.
yeah,
I find your story so inspiring, David, and I love how you embraced mistakes as part of this journey. You said yes to everything, and sometimes that means you're making mistakes. And so many of us struggle with perfectionism. And you found a way to turn those mistakes, we'll call them, into lessons and learn from them so that you can continue to get better and better.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's tons of mistakes I've made, none of which I will highlight here because I hopefully have hidden them in various spots. But that's really how you learn. I've listened to your show and past shows about people talking about you really have to make mistakes to be successful. And um, fortunately, you can sometimes, like I say, hide mistakes so people don't really know you've made mistakes. But I think that's the only way to learn, really, is to fail. And I think one of your previous guests was quoting somebody who said, the reason I'm successful is because I try everything. And you try 100 things, you're going to succeed at 20, 30% of them, maybe. So that's kind of what I've always done. And every show, every movie I've worked on. I'm proud of all of it, which is kind of amazing because you think, oh, there must be some stinkers in there. I mean, unless I've got, I guess I'm biased, but I'm really, really proud of, like, I mean, I started out in Los Angeles doing, when I moved down to LA, doing Sweet Valley High episodes for Nickelodeon. And that's on
Aw.
Netflix. That's like a favorite series of lots of people I've talked to too. And as you mentioned, Afraid of the Dark comes up almost weekly in my life. Someone says, "Did you do that really creepy episode about the kid and the red bicycle and stuff?" Yeah, that was me. That was me. You have me. But the series is like 33 years old now, if you can picture that.
But that is an incredible legacy that you are leaving behind, something
Yeah.
to be so proud of.
Yep.
I'm curious to know if you feel like in your approach to your whole career that has led to so much success, do you feel like you think about things differently than most people? Do you feel like you've managed to make it make things work for you and to your advantage in a way that other people don't necessarily because they don't see it in the same way or they just don't think about things in that way?
I think, what keeps you what keeps you young in life is being childlike. And I somehow have managed to hold on to this naive 20s kind of attitude that I could do anything I wanted to do, just by kind of, I mean, I basically willed my first movie into existence because I just wanted to get it made, and I wanted to try and knock on the door of Hollywood. And somehow, I don't know, how a kid from the Canadian prairies makes it to Hollywood seemed impossible. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to do one movie, let alone, I mean, I just finished well, I've done, I think 46, 47 movies now, and I've done 26 of them have been for the Hallmark Channel, as you mentioned. I'm done hopefully some Christmas classics that live on, because I know when I grew up there was lots of great Christmas movies that I loved, and hopefully one or two of the Christmas movies I've done for Hallmark Channel will live on and keep people happy long after I'm not around. But I don't know. I think it's about just holding on to your inner child and the kind of dreams you had when you were a kid. I kind of Pollyanna about things. I mean, I've been really lucky and successful. There's so many people that I started with in the film business who just gave up, because it's not an easy business to stay in. Even now we're having lots of struggles with, you know, there's just less TV shows and movies happening right now. So it's always tricky. But I've always just kind of hung on to what I wanted to do. Like it's like the magic wand. What would you do if you really wanted to do something? And when I was a kid, it was, well, I really want to make movies. So I just kind of found a way to get there, you know. And I'm not sure if my path is something that can be learned or something. I just kind of I went with the flow, and like I said yes to everything.
I think your journey shows how embracing who you are and finding your own rhythm can lead to success. So you knew you wanted to make movies from a young age and you stuck with it. And a- as you said, you probably knew many people who didn't, and
Yep.
you certainly can't be successful if you don't stick with it.
No, and
And
I also had the other problem of I knew I couldn't fit into the regular 9 to 5 mode because I had done that and I just hated it. And I thought, I got to find some career that's actually fun. And I think, obviously it's not easy for everybody because you gotta make a living, you gotta eat, and you gotta pay your rent. But I was fortunate enough to find a way to turn a hobby into a career. And I guess that's the secret of happiness, is if you can find something that you love to do every day and that you get excited about when you get up in the morning. And I can't wait to get on film sets and stuff. And I've been around a lot of people that have gotten jaded in the film business, but it's just not part of my makeup. And fortunately, there's so many more people that just love what they do, and they love being on set, and they love acting, and they love photographing scenes and lighting scenes, and those are the kind of people you need to have around you.
I feel like you're speaking right to me. That is how I feel about this podcast, actually, that I never really knew I wanted to host a podcast until I did it, and now I feel like this is what I've been meant to do.
That's
And it's
great.
the same thing where so many people have started podcasts, they get a couple episodes in, and then
They go, I don't want to do this anymore.
achoo, excuse me.
Paul,
Achoo,
you'll
excuse
you'll
me.
edit those out.
Yes.
Apologies. And I've got some nice Canadian sunshine blasting me out of here, but I'll turn it again. Anyway, here I am. Yep.
Um, and yes, so much of it is about just showing up, just
Yep.
doing it again and again, and as you said, saying yes to it, and That's what we do. We say yes to as many guests as we can that fit into our mission and value for the podcast, and we're nearing 70 episodes now in
Good
less
for
than a
you.
year, and
Congratulations. That's great. And
thank you,
think
and
of
I
all
look
think of all the people that you're inspiring with this. I mean, it's just, I always feel like as I got older now, I've had such luck in my career and such good fortune that part of my job now is to just try to give back and inspire people. And somewhere there's a little boy or a little girl playing with a movie camera that thinks, well, I don't know if they make movie cameras anymore. It's all video. That's how old I am. But there's somebody out there who thinks, I wonder if I could do this for a living because it's so much fun. And it's a great way to, I discovered when I was a kid, it was a great way to express yourself and your ideas was with a movie camera. So
Yeah.
thank goodness for my dad's foresight.
Yes, it's always interesting to look back and realize that, things happened the way they were meant to happen. That's
Yep.
the truth. So, okay, now you've worked on an incredible range of projects, including being the house director for Van Helsing and just wrapping up your 26th Christmas movie for Hallmark. Incredible.
Yeah.
What has been your most rewarding part of your career, and what keeps you excited and passionate about directing after all these years?
Well, you mentioned Van Helsing's one of the most fun jobs I've had in the last 10 years, I think. And it's the complete opposite of Hallmark Channel. So I apologize to Hallmark fans, but I was simultaneously, lighting Christmas trees. And then I was going to my other job and I was, slitting throats on a really violent vampire series that's still on Netflix too, which people can check out. Van Helsing was a great series. They ran 5 seasons and I had so much fun making this show. It was like fantasy world and, action. I really wanted to make action movies when I started. So Van Helsing was kind of a dream come true. It was just so much fun to play with these guys and really great actors and fun stories. And we just had a blast. And I think what keeps me excited, there's something new every day. You never know when you're going to be filming some scene in like an operating room during like real surgery or I get to go places that nobody gets to go because it's like the joke is cinematic community. You go anywhere when you're scouting locations. Oh, we're coming through here, we're shooting a film. We're polite, but you kind of get to see the world making movies because you get to kind of delve into so many other professions when you're telling these stories, which has been great.
Yeah. I'm curious too if you had any limiting beliefs when you first started, maybe not even realizing it, but you can look back now and acknowledge it, that maybe you thought thinking your first movie would fail, kind of overcoming some things that were taught to you growing up that you had to realize just weren't true for you,
Yeah.
and moving past that to follow your passion and to be successful.
You always have self-doubt when you're making movies. I never knew if I wrote the first 2 movies I made, and you never know if your ideas are something that's going to touch a nerve with somebody. But I think a lot of when you're starting out making movies, it's really about imitating. You're imitating your favorites and the masters of the past and the favorite movies that you grew up with, and that's kind of what I've spent my life doing, hoping that eventually I would be able to innovate. You're imitating until you can innovate. So in terms of telling stories, but I've been doing other people's stories for years now, obviously television and Hallmark and stuff. And I've been trying to make this attempt to get back to my roots. The first movie I made, the first movie I wrote, because when you start out making movies, you're kind of in the indie route, and you want to make your own stories and your own movies. So I'm always trying to get back to that.
So you've collaborated with a lot of other people in the industry, some pretty big names, actually. I'm curious to know how you have kind of merged what you just mentioned of imitating what you thought were the best and the brightest and kind of who you grew up idolizing with the professionals that you've met and that have also shaped your own creative style. What have you learned from working with actors and producers and other directors, and how has that continued to shape and evolve you?
Well, one of the cool things about directing is you have to kind of check your ego at the door, and as they say, and I'm always been open to collaborating with people and other people's ideas that come up with great stuff. And I think to be a good director and good filmmaker, you have to kind of be open to anybody's ideas. And so I love working on shows where, people say, what about if we did this? What about if we did that? It's not all set in stone. And if you can be open to any kind of inspirational ideas that come from anywhere, I think you end up with a better product. And I always say, it's going to say directed by me anyway. So let's take all the good ideas and do what we can with them. But, I've
I
worked
love
with some,
that.
I've worked with some great people, and good ideas can come from anywhere. Your driver can say, I read the script and I was wondering maybe it would be cool if this happened. And, you give credit where credit's due. And I just think it's still a collaborative art. The director's not some, I've never been the standard kind of screaming dictator director that, some people think of as what directors are supposed to be like. It's not my style. I'm Canadian too, so I'm hopelessly polite.
I love that. Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit because many people would consider your career in film and TV to be successful. But what does success mean to you? How do you define success on your own terms? And has that definition changed over the years?
Well, I mean, I think, it's not sometimes I think it's not really for me to say. I mean, I don't know what the body of work's going to look like after I'm gone when people look back on these movies. I think I've just been trying to I've always thought, even though it's such a large variety of genres and science fiction and monster movies and Christmas movies, what you're really trying to do is it's all entertainment, right? And you're just trying to inspire people. So I'd be very happy if I was able to just know that one of these movies or one of these TV shows touched somebody in such a way that they go, oh, I remember that, because I think of the things when I was a kid that I look back on 40, 50-year-old TV episodes that I still watch that still touch me emotionally. And I've been trying to, I think I've been trying to do that with my whole career. It's just one of the most fun things about the Hallmark channel movies that I've been doing just these last few years is, it's all, you're trying to make people cry and you're trying to inspire people and you're trying to, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think there's still room for heroes in the world, and it's great to be able to create a little distraction. And sometimes I think, I'm not curing cancer, and I'm not a doctor, but I guess it's important to entertain people as well, and to keep people happy and keep them, give them a break from if they're having a miserable life, give them 90 minutes to just kind of go somewhere else and relax.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that many of your movies are part of family traditions out there where they get together and say, "Oh, let's watch that one movie we watched last year with our whole family. It was so much fun." And
Yes,
so
well,
you're part of memories and traditions, and that's
it's
really special.
well, I appreciate that. I think, as you probably, in terms of Hallmark Channel, I think you probably know that 85 million people watched the Christmas movies last year, I think, and it's just become this
Wow.
kind of, a family tradition, which I love. I love being involved with because, I say, I'm a big science fiction fan because I grew up on the original Star Trek, and I still love that kind of whole genre. But I also grew up on things like the Waltons and Little House on the Prairie and movies and TV series that were really family generated and were about hope. And I mean, I think that's what it's all about, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. David, our time has flown by today. We've got to wrap up, but I have one last question for you. Now, you have had an extraordinary career, and your story is such a testament to what happens when you take risks, follow your passion, and embrace mistakes along the way. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone who is about to take a leap into the unknown, whether it's starting a creative career or taking a big risk in their life, what would it be?
well, I used to have this little sign on my typewriter when I was 20, and I was clacking out my first movie script, and it said "Ignore dream killers." Because it's something that I've just kind of always believed. There's so much against you in the world. You kind of have to forge your own path. And if you find some way to actually turn a hobby into a career like I did, then you're lucky. I mean, I think so. I do that. I try to ignore the negative always, and I think there's not enough kindness in the world, and especially now, I think you just have to be kind to people, and you never know what other people's struggles are. And so I'm hoping that I can entertain folks with my job. And but I mean, I run really happy sets, and I like people to be really happy and fun, enjoy their time, because I think they give you the best work, and then ultimately you look better. So I think it's just really important how you treat people.
That's beautiful. Just beautiful. David, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your amazing story. Your journey is truly an inspiration, and I know our listeners will walk away feeling more empowered to take risks and follow their own creative paths. For those of you listening, be sure to check out David's work. His extensive filmography is a testament to what happens when you don't let fear stand in your way.
Yep.
David, thank you again for joining us. This has been such a powerful conversation. And to our listeners, our free spirits out there, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone who's ready to take the leap into their own creative journey. Until next time, keep challenging the status quo